I'm now making over $400 per month with my music, mostly through Spotify. This is the last 9 months of my Spotify earnings. Now, $400 a month isn't enough to support a full-time artist, but I'm not trying to be a full-time artist. I don't tour, I don't sell merch, and I'm not on a label. I just want to make music, and Spotify is making that possible. I'm such a fool, always I do. I'm such a fool, always I do. Promoting my music before Spotify was awful. I would spend hours cold emailing bloggers. It was boring, monotonous, and it couldn't be automated. Every once in a while, a blog would write about me and it would give me a short bump in listens. But the bump never lasted long. Then in 2017, I joined Spotify and started getting featured on Discover Weekly. So if you don't know, Discover Weekly is a personalized playlist sent to users every Monday based on their musical preferences. Discover Weekly changed everything by giving me something incredibly valuable: a consistent stream of new listeners. Unlike blogs, it wasn't one-off bumps, it was steady and consistent. I didn't even have to do any cold outreach for it. Listeners just started arriving most Mondays. Beyond the data, I've also found that there's a growing collection of serendipitous events that make me feel like the momentum is building behind my music. For example, recently a friend overheard my music in a cafe in Slovenia. Covers of my songs are popping up on YouTube. A listener overheard my song in a Swedish hardware store and sent me a video.
Kuule lugu.
And friends are randomly stumbling into my music during brunch. Plus, I'm getting DMs and emails from listeners every few days. They often just say things like, "Hi," or ask me about song meanings, or they tell me they introduced all their friends to a song. And that stuff is crazy. It's hard to communicate the feeling I get when someone sends these DMs and emails. It makes me want to make more music. It puts a spring in my step. If you ever need to feel good about the internet again, I'd suggest releasing music online. You might be surprised by how encouraging and kind people are. There are 3 types of Spotify playlists: algorithmic, which is personalized playlists like Discover Weekly or Release Radar; editorial, which is playlists created by Spotify's official human editors; and listener, which are the playlists anyone can make. The conventional wisdom for getting on Discover Weekly is that you first need to be featured on an editorial playlist. And while that's probably a good first step, it's not entirely true. I also sing in a band called Bamboo. So hit me at the bayou. Just let me know when you're through. And while we've never been on an editorial playlist, we've received over 22,000 streams from Discover Weekly. But editorial playlists still seem important, though I actually have no insight into how you get them. I've been on 9 editorial playlists, but I couldn't tell you why. The songs just one day appeared. The best tip I have for getting on editorial playlists is to release singles. You usually need to submit your music to Spotify 4 weeks before your release date. This is the same for all streaming services. During that 4-week span, Spotify lets you submit one song to their editors to be considered for playlists. Because you can only submit one song during this window, it's best to space out your releases so that you can take advantage of as many windows of opportunity as you can. One good indicator for whether your song will be featured on Discover Weekly is saves per listener. My songs with the highest saves per listener rate have also been featured on Discover Weekly the most. The term for paying to be on playlists is payola. Payola is against Spotify's rules, though most indie artists will tell you in a conspiratorial tone that music labels who are part owners of Spotify have special access to playlist promotion. So instead of paying directly for placement, there are playlist promotion companies. For example, Playlist Push, Submit Hub, and Streaming Promotions that will promote your music to curators of listener playlists. I don't believe that listener playlists hold as much weight as editorial playlists than Spotify, but they're still something. If you're an indie artist, you're going to get lots of cold emails from playlist promotion companies. I've tried a few as experiments and I've had modest success. It all kind of feels like a gamble though. Here's how Spotify and Apple Music compare in my streams over the last 48 weeks. I'll take plays wherever I can get them, but clearly Spotify does way, way more for me than Apple Music. For indie artists like me, the big difference is Discover Weekly, and Apple Music has no equivalent. Artists should be truth tellers, not hustling entrepreneurs. But in today's world, that's not even close to being possible. To be a full-time artist, you have to hustle and grind. Your Instagram has to be on point. You have to tour constantly. You have to sell merch. You got to start a Patreon. You got to do anything you can to support the art. I don't want to do that stuff. I just want to make music, preferably in my evenings when I'm done working my day job. And that's what Spotify is letting me do, and I'm actually earning a bit of money doing it. I'm not getting rich, and I'm not getting famous, but I'm not sure that's worth aspiring towards anyways. I'm making music for people who want to hear it. Anything beyond that is a bonus.